All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for hanging with us here today. I am Jessica Payne. Welcome to Jessica Payne Live. I'm so excited to bring you my guest today, whether you're watching live or you're going to be watching a little later. And it sounds like we have a little bit of a delay, but Ersilia, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Perfect, perfect. So I'm just going to keep on talking. We have such a fun show today. Ersilia, I'm going to do a very brief intro, and but other than that, I'm just going to let you kind of take the floor. For all of you tuning in, this is Jessica Payne Live. I'm live every Tuesday at 10 a.m., except for today. We're a little later today, but I'm so glad to bring to you an amazing guest, a fellow Southern Californian. Ersilia Pompilio you are like a woman of many means, but I would like to describe you as a woman entrepreneur. You have a prestigious career, a long-running career as a nurse practitioner, and you're going to get into that. And you are also a funny and creative, if I can even call you a comedian, and I'll just leave it at that. But if you could give yourself a brief intro to the audience. We have people who watch all around the world, who run their own businesses, who are entrepreneurs, who are maybe asking those questions that you have been asking. So introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you.
Well, thank you, Jessica, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much. And, you know, it's awesome girl power that we worked out the glitches and we made it happen. So this is super cool. And it was so great to meet you and connect on social media so that we can make this happen. This is awesome. And so about me, I've been a pediatric nurse for about 21 years, a pediatric nurse practitioner since about 2005. And what a nurse practitioner is, it's if you took a doctor and a nurse and they got married and they had a child, they'd have me. So not really that they would have me, but a cross between a nurse and a doctor. That's what that is. Nurse practitioners can prescribe, diagnose, do just about anything that a doctor can.
Right.
And only that in California, we don't have full practice authority, so that if we're working in a clinic, we have to have a medical director over us. So we're one of the few states that have not gotten that approved yet, so that we could practice on our own. So yeah, that's what I do. I love my job, and kind of segued. I've had weird, interesting, fun roller coaster type ride with my career lately. I started writing in 2008 because I was burnt out. I was teaching as well at a university, and I just needed a creative outlet. So I found a boutique writing school here in Los Angeles in the Arts District, and they had a chef. I mean, I didn't want to go to regular school like UCLA Extension to learn writing. I wanted to go to something unconventional, something creative, something really fun where I could go and relax. And I found that. And like I said, they had a chef. We had classes in the loft, and we ended up going to just writing retreats all over all over Southern California, and it was a lot of fun. I became a voracious writer, or a voracious student, and then all of a sudden, I really didn't think anything was going to come out of what I was doing. I was just really enjoying the ride. I was being very playful, creative. I was meeting people who were not in the nursing field or healthcare field at all. I was meeting lots of artists, writers, you name it, I've met them. It's a plethora of what is in Los Angeles. It was so beautiful. And lo and behold, one day I was at a retreat, and I was telling one of my friends who's an attorney about a guy that I had dated. And he turns to me and says, "Do you realize you sure do have a lot of, or you sure do date a lot of hypochondriacs?" And I was like, oh my gosh, that's right, I do. And I was entertaining people. I had worked at Children's Hospital. I worked there for about 7 years, and I worked in a place called Surgical Admitting, where we would see all the pre-surgery kids before they went into surgery, and I would do all the histories and physicals for the anesthesiologist and clearing the kids for surgery. So basically, I was taking down all their stories in compiling them and making sure they were healthy enough. Also, I was telling my crazy, wacky dating stories to all the nurses that were there, and I developed a following. Like, people would come to the unit and say, "Oh, hey, do you have any more dating stories? They're so funny."
Yeah.
And so I knew I had something. And when my friend Mark had said, you sure do date a lot of hypochondriacs, I got it. I got the J.K. Rowling's download, and I started writing The Nurse and the Hypochondriacs, which was a one-person show, and I had a team of writers with me who were in the industry, and that went, from there, I performed it 3 times at a little theater, put it to bed, and it was resurrected as a storytelling show in 2015 for the Hollywood Fringe Festival, and we did 5 performances, 20 performers. And to date, tomorrow, on October 25th, we will be at the Los Angeles Lit Festival in North Hollywood, and that will be show number 13. And
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And we've traveled with the show to Denver. That was the storytelling show, which is now a podcast. So we have 6 episodes in. We just launched number 3, and which all came under the umbrella of Rogue Nurse Media. So,
talk us through Rogue Nurse Media, because for the people tuning in who might have just been listening to your story, Ersilia, I think it's amazing. So here's someone who has a established career. So nurse practitioner, you love it. And it sounds like through just you being yourself, you had created kind of a mini following. People were reflecting back to you that you kind of had a talent for storytelling, sounds like. Maybe walk us through, because I think that's really important. They not only reflected back to you, but like you heard what they were saying, and you maybe decided to take a chance on that. Can you kind of walk us through that journey, and then maybe kind of how Rogue Nurse Media was formed? Because it sounded like you identified an opportunity.
Sure. I think I'm very open to experiences. Like Ira Glass says, there's this great quote, stories happen to those who can tell them. So when I teach in my workshops is you just have to be open to experience. And I'm always open to experience. I'm always open to meeting new people. And, things happen and interesting things happen, and I see things in a different way, and I could kind of concoct this story. I mean, I come from a line of storytellers. My parents are great storytellers. And it's also a great way to debrief too when you're working in the healthcare industry, because it could be so stressful, and you just have to laugh, and not that you're making fun of your patients, but you're looking at situations and you're putting them into a different perspective. When I had done the one-person show, I noticed there was an educational component. People were coming up to me and saying how much they learned about what a nurse practitioner does, and through my stories. So in the storytelling show, more and more people were coming up to me and saying, "Hey, this was so educational." So I saw that educational component, and put it together with my teaching skills. And I went ahead and I hired what had happened was I was sitting on my couch and meditating, and I didn't know what to do with the show after it ended, the storytelling show. And one of my friends had challenged me and sent me an email and said, "Hey, we want a team building activity here at our office," and it was at a hospital. And she said, "We don't want to do Toastmasters. Do you know anybody that teaches storytelling?" And I said, "Well, yes, I can come and teach." I had produced 5 shows at that time, and I went ahead and I hired my friend Brandon to come on board as a consultant, and he had won the Moth like 5 times. So we had gone through several books. We had gone to see several storytellers together, and had done quite a bit of research and had met several times, and talked about what makes a good storyteller and how you could tell if someone is being unique and authentic. And we talked about energy, and we talked about the whole basis of storytelling is a storyteller gets to be heard and validated, and their story gets to be just, they get to be heard and validated. They get that respect that maybe they don't have when they're having a conversation with someone, because they're always like cutting someone off. You're like, hey, wait a minute, that happened to me. And everybody kind of is sharing their experiences because it's so exciting. But with storytelling, one person is able to express everything while everybody, the audience, just listens. And they're able to convey empathy, and they're able to convey different emotions. And empathy is a big one right now, because I think in our world, it's very lacking. So we had gotten together, put together this class. We had it, we did a pilot course in my living room. We had about like 7 students come in, and they loved the class. We got them ready for a show. A couple of them went on and performed, and they were awesome. I went ahead one step further, sent the course to a couple of my friends who are nurse practitioners. They told me what they liked and what they didn't like about it, helped me to perfect it. So I sent it to the board of registered nursing, and I got it approved for continuing education units so that nurses could take the classes and they could get credit hours toward their license. And we focus on publishing, we focus on empowerment in the course, and we focus on the value of storytelling and how you can educate your patients through storytelling as well. And there's a ton of research that I've pulled on that. So that's the Well-Written Nurse. Now, how I started Rogue Nurse Media, like such a crazy story down my yellow brick road. I was just pitching magazines to give me PR for the Nurses and Hypochondriacs Fringe Show, and one magazine in particular, which was Working Nurse, had said, hey, can you write me an article? Because I had submitted a short story with my pitch. And I was like, that's not what I want. I just want PR. And I started writing for her because she told me she would pay me. And I had written several features. They were great. She's such a great editor. And I ended up writing an article about nurses in the media. And I'd done a ton of research, and I had asked journalistic questions of these nurses who were involved in the media. And I asked them also, like, what is the solution of the bad stereotype that we see of nurses in the media? How can we fix that? And so they had said that, oh, well, we need to tell these directors what to do. We need to put more nurse consultants on there. And I didn't think that was a valid solution. I was like, well, you can't tell directors or producers anything in Hollywood. And most of these people that I was interviewing were from back east, so I don't think they understood how Hollywood works.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
you know, and so I was like, you really can't do that. I go, why don't we teach nurses how to write, how to do journalistic writing, how to write screenplays, how to, you know, tell a story, how to submit for an opinion editorial piece and get their voices heard. And so then I came up with the idea of Rogue Nurse Media. And the name just came from, not Rogue One, because I came up with the name before Rogue One came out. So maybe it was in the mass consciousness.
Disclaimer. Good.
Maybe it was in the mass consciousness, but I really always loved Che Guevara because he was a physician and he educated his soldiers. So I felt kind of like I was doing the same thing. You know, the name just started ringing in my head, Rogue. And I had written that on a Post-it on my wall a while ago. And, you know, and whenever the idea is ready, I just pull down the Post-it and I go, okay, Rogue Nurse Media. And it's also because this woman who owns a nursing consulting firm had told me that nobody's going to fund me with Nurses and Hypochondriacs. And I had to change the name. And I said, I'm not going to change the name. I love the name too much, and so do so many other people. So I came up with an umbrella of Rogue underneath all of the Nurses and Hypochondriac Storytelling podcast, and also the Well-Written Nurse workshops.
I love it. So it sounds like, just to summarize for our listeners, it sounds like your peers recognized the talent in you. They told you, you were receptive to that. You then sort of picked your head up and looked around, identified an opportunity to bring in not just the career that had served you to date, but this talent that you have that you either recognized or not. You took a chance. You decided to explore different ways of storytelling. And it sounds like it just kind of naturally snowballed from there. I want my audience to hear from you, because I think it's really kind of beautiful the way you put it. Some of us that are lucky enough to get to that point, either our own self-doubt or the naysayers in our life may, that might be as far as we get. Can you walk us through how you were able to kind of push through maybe your own internal challenges or maybe external ones to just continue to move forward? Because I think a huge part of us is we might even know the talent or are open to exploring it, but it's scary. It's different. And when there's maybe a business attached to it, can be really intimidating. Can you walk us through maybe how you pushed through that barrier, if it wasn't even a barrier at all for you?
Yeah, sure. It was a huge barrier. And I think that anybody starting a business or anybody starting a venture, like you read about it or you watch the documentaries of Martin Luther King and of Gandhi. They all had a lot of adversaries. At the time, I had been undergoing hypnotherapy, which really helped me relieve a lot of blocks. And my hypnotherapist was also an entrepreneur, which she was a huge support at the time in helping me push through those walls and helping me push through those barriers. So I was able to go to her and see her as a mentor and also a therapist, and helping me with my blocks. And a lot of them are mental blocks. They're in your subconscious, and they're put there either through the people that you hang out with, or they're put through their through your upbringing.
Right.
Now, I was brought up by entrepreneurial parents, but still they were very confused to why I was making this shift. Here I am, a nurse practitioner. I should just stay in my nurse practitioner box. Yeah. So a lot of my friends also saw me as that. And they were like, I don't understand. Why are you doing this? They just thought it was a fun hobby. And yeah, I did too, until I saw an opportunity. And basically I had a lot of naysayers. Like, I had people saying that Nurses and Hypochondriacs, nobody would listen to that, and you need to change the name. So I thought about that, and I said no. And I asked some other people too. I was like, they're like, no, the name's so fun. And I go, I know, I really like the name. So, but I took what she said, and it needed a stronger name, an umbrella, so I kind of developed something else. So that was actually, negative comments are not so bad. They kind of make you think a little bit further, and to conceptualize it. And it is an opinion, so you could take it or leave it as you want. Now, when I was doing my journalistic article on nurses in the media, I did interview someone who was a PhD professor at a certain university, and she had been this nurses in the media, I don't want to call her an influencer, but probably an expert, but all her research was up until 2012. So when I had called her, she didn't like the way I spoke. She was starting to put me down. She said that my terms were not PC enough, so she sent me a list of PC terms. And she just kind of went on, and she started to cut me down. And then at the end of our conversation, as she was so negative, she said, well, I can mentor you. And so I said, I looked at her research and I said, but your stuff is late. It's all 2012. There's nothing on social media. This was 2016. It was last year that I wrote the article. You don't have all these amazing things that have happened. I mean, there was the whole show me your stethoscope with the that show with, I forget. So there was a nurse, she was Miss America, and she had her stethoscope on. It was The View. The show is The View.
Oh, and, right. Yeah.
Right. So what's her name? Bear on there. She was like, hey, nurses don't wear stethoscopes. And it started a media flurry like crazy. And people started like Facebook sites and just, really jumped on that in Twitter and social media. 3 million nurses across the nation. And so she didn't know about these things. These are all pivotal things that we need to consider in the media. So I started seeing that I had a niche, and I kind of was a little bit on top of her. So I just took the football and ran with it and stuff. And I made it a nonprofit so that it's easier to get grants. And the whole idea is to go brick and mortar and open up a center. So yeah, but I also got naysayers from my friends who thought I was crazy. And it's all because they want to do it. You know, they want to do it. They're terrified. They hate their jobs. And it's like, I will help them, and I have helped people. I had a woman that I was helping right now, and she was a great comedian and a great storyteller. But what she kept doing was kind of taking my ideas and making them her own, and she was wanting to start her own storytelling shows and her own things. And I kept saying, yes, but there is mine. I mean, I just developed
my property. Yeah.
Yeah, you just can't take what I did and the exact same thing and make it yours. And I kept reminding her of this. So she just, I told her I was last week I was incredibly busy, and I told her I was too busy to do some stuff for her, and she unFacebooked me, and she's cut me out of her life. So be it, you know? And
be it. Oh my gosh.
I have a great friend who owns a nonprofit, Boo to Bullying. His name is Dimitri Hakitis, and he told me, he's like, the minute you see drama, cut it out. And I think that's a great, that's a great bit of advice. So, and I follow it, and I just need to keep going and need to keep the ball rolling, because there's so many other bigger problems other than drama, female drama, you know, just personal identity drama that I don't know what to do with that. So.
It's not your stuff. So some beautiful words, I think, from Ersilia, you guys. I love that one. Negative comments are not bad. So that's good. We can all learn from, I think, any criticism, whether we own it or not. It makes us think. I think those are powerful, and I love that. The minute you see drama, cut it out. So if any of you are kind of in a similar space, and I think our friends and family, our closest family members, even, it might be coming from a place of wanting us to be successful, but then it just comes out verbal diarrhea. So naysayers can come from anywhere, it sounds like, from our closest circles even, or competitors, or people who want to mentor you but don't set themselves up that way. So good advice for anyone who's kind of like, let me slam you down, but you can pay me to mentor. There's so much of that. I think it comes down to a word that's being used a lot, maybe too much, but value. But I think it's sort of, even as a friend, seeing another friend taking a risk like you, your value as their friend can still be honest and say, this is really scary. This is different for you, but I support whatever you're doing because you have a smile on your face now and you seem happier, right?
Yeah, my mother has told me that. She doesn't understand what I'm doing, but she's supportive of that, you know, because she keeps going, well, you know what you're doing. I had a friend who wanted to put a 5150, that's a psychiatric hold on me, because we were talking on the phone. He goes, I don't understand. You just left your job, and then all of a sudden you started this business. And I go, it didn't happen that way. It was literally a process from 2008 to 2016 or 2017, still going on.
Yeah, but on his radar, it's like she's out of control. She's making these dramatic changes, and you're like, actually, it's been hibernating my whole life.
Right, it's been hibernating. Yeah, and I just did a presentation at Mount St. Mary's for the Society of Pediatric Nurses on Friday. And I have this picture of when I was in high school at Eagle Rock High, and I played the nurse in Romeo and Juliet in my senior year. And I'm on stage, and I was like, you know, I was like, look.
That's
on stage. It's like what Glenda the Good Witch tells Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. It's like, you were there all along. You know, you had the report all along. So I think I was just meant to be on the stage, meant to be educating, and meant to be helping other nurses to empower them to have their voice and go on, you know, and, you know, and help them out. And I mean, storytelling is so healing. And whenever I get people...
Storytelling is healing, I love that.
Yeah, whenever I get, you know, I do consulting, and I also do one-on-one storytelling with people. And I feel like an artistic shaman in a way. I guess you could call it a psychopomp, which one of my writing instructors, Josefina Lopez, called me, because my last name's Pompilio. And a psychopomp is somebody who opens portals for people and is a guide. So a psychopomp could be a teacher, a midwife, and also you see them, it's usually like death going down the river, you know. That is a one form of a psychopomp as well. It's just helping people transition to their next phase. And I really felt that on my storytelling show that we did for breast cancer awareness. I had a bone marrow transplant nurse, pediatric specialty, come on, and she had was really mourning the loss of her mother for several years, and she had died of stage 4 breast cancer. And so I walked her through that journey of her story. I also gave her a $100 grant to put up a photo essay, because she's also a photographer, and she did a beautiful photojournalism of her mother before she passed away, and it was really artistically done, very well done, not sad at all, very funny actually, because her mother had such a great sense of humor, and she captured that, and she had written this beautiful Facebook note on how healing that was for her, and she really needed to get this story out, and I really helped her with that. She was really stuck on when her mom got the final diagnosis and when she came out of surgery, when they knew that there was nothing they could do for her, the doctor actually came out, and she didn't like how the doctor confronted her mother, and she was very angry at that, and that's the sore point. And so we were able to get her past that. And so she had said that she needed to get past that in order for her to be a mother, and she had gotten pregnant, or I think she was pregnant at that time. So she really needed that transition.
Wow.
So it was really powerful, and I am using it for a book on how we really need each other sometimes, you know, to open those doorways and to help you through those phases of life, you know.
That's a really beautiful point. It's so, as a daughter of a nurse, I've been exposed to I had a double whammy. My mom was a nurse. It's like the best kind of mom in the world, right? We had so much gauze in the house. Like, you need a Band-Aid? We got, you need supplies? I mean, I knew what like a suture was at like age 5, but as a daughter of a nurse raised by a wonderful woman, my mom, and you talked a little bit about it, so I know so the healer archetype, you were born to be of service. It is like, you told me the other day that beautiful stat about, I think it's like ranked highest in integrity or something like that, nursing.
Yeah. Gallup poll ranks nurses like 16 years in a row, I think, as the most empathic, most honest profession out there. Yeah. Yeah.
Not a shocker. And so the people that go into nursing, it's like you all share, and I'm in awe because I could never do it. This healer archetype, this wanting to be of service. And I just love how your story just now, you talked about as someone who's in it just for the service, not for the glory of it, it's the benefits that are coming back to you. You're still able to empower people in so many different ways than you probably even thought when you started off in nursing, whether it's through your teaching or through your conversations or maybe even your show. Talk to us about, like, have there been any surprises like that have come through this kind of new chapter in your life? Like,
tons. It's been quite a roller coaster ride. I mean, there's been lots of ups and downs, but the more I talk to different entrepreneurs, the more I hear that. I think one of the best things is when people come up to me and say how much they like the show and how much they learned from the show and how much they could relate to either the podcast or either the storytellers on, and also people who want to come on and be empowered to do storytelling. When I was giving my talk at the Society of Pediatric Nurses, I had a few nurses coming up to me, and it's interesting. It's they were older nurses who were ready finally to tell their story. You know, they're like, I need to tell my story because of something that happened in their life, or, you know, but they were kind of very trapped I guess I felt intuitively, I was like, this person seems to be very trapped, and they're wanting to release something so that they can move on, you know?
Right.
She had told me a personal story about herself. And then I had another nurse come up to me, and she was very, very funny. And she's like, my son needs to take your class. She's like, he's so funny, and I don't know where he gets it from. And then she starts telling me this funny story that happened to her. She's like, are these the stories you want? And I was like, yeah, I think your son gets it from you, you know, and I think it's you that needs to come take the class, you know, because she was so into it. And well, she would benefit from it as well. So yeah, it's just, I love to really help people and help them open up. And I think that it is something that I've discovered that I can help people do. I think anybody can help people do that. And we need that more in this culture right now, because it's all up me culture. You know, and so it's like what we're doing here today together, helping and, you know, helping out other brands as well and partnering up, because it's just such a crazy traffic soup of social media and just so much information being bombarded out.
That was a perfect segue to my next question. It was sort of like how important has, you know, have partnerships or collaboration been specifically in terms of, so let's shift a little into maybe more brand conversation or business on the business side. How important has collaboration been, and do you have an example of maybe how that's kind of helped either raise brand awareness or maybe you know, lead to one of your grants? Has that been helpful? And can you give us an example, maybe if other people are listening, thinking collaboration might help for them?
Yeah, networking is key, I think, in business, anywhere you go. I see myself as a superstar networker, and I get that from my mom. She's great. And I love meeting new people and networking and finding out what they're doing. So it's pivotal for me to get people onto my podcast and storytelling shows and show their talents off, because a lot of the people that I have on my podcast are either actresses, actors, they are comedians, and they also do their own shows. So they come and we cross promote each other. So they'll promote my podcast or the show that they've been on, and I cross promote them as well. So that works all over social media. I also partner up with brands. I've partnered up with Figs Uniforms, and they've sent me like a lab coated uniform. And of course I will, you know, try to like do the brand ambassador thing and talk about them on social media and wear their articles on my shows. I've also partnered up with Illumivane, and they've given me some product, and we've raffled, which is great. And again, it's more product awareness, and they do the same for us. And then also, I think one of our biggest was Keep Abreast, and they do the I Love Boobies bracelets, and they're so great. And we use them for breast cancer awareness. And Shani Jo Darden, who runs Keep Abreast, is awesome to collaborate with. It's also a nonprofit. So I've, you know, given out their swag, and they were so gracious. I went to their headquarters and saw how they worked, and it was neat. So it was really nice, and people were into my brand and vice versa. So yeah, it's very pivotal, and I'm still working with different companies and bringing advertisers onto my shows who are interested as well. And it's all some type of healthcare base, or if we're in alignment somehow with messages and stuff. Yeah.
Great. So if you guys are taking any notes out there, I mean, you're a perfect example of finding your niche and just sticking with it, and reflecting back to us that there is absolutely interest in other people, kindred spirits, like-minded businesses for collaboration. It sounds like advertising. It sounds like rather than trying to stand out saying me, it's just kind of turn and find your partners so that you can kind of lift each other up, support each other, especially, you know, in the digital realm. So it's like what we're doing here. It's sort of like my only connection to nursing is that I'm a proud daughter of a now retired nurse. I am not in the healthcare industry, although I do have clients who hail from it. But I just admire at you as a woman entrepreneur running her business. Obviously, you have a beautiful digital following, and for me running this show, I thought you have such a beautiful story to tell, a very unique story to tell. So yeah, you guys, collaboration, partnerships, you know, my experience is you don't have to really look far to find a solid partner.
No. And if you just ask people, of course, there's some people that say no or don't respond to you,
Sure.
but there's a lot of yeses as well. Like social media nowadays, it's just so hard to get those crazy followings. And if you just partner up with someone that has them and is willing to help you out, it's so great. And it does really work. And again, you're cross promoting them. Maybe you have something that they don't have, a lot of, one of our podcast guests, Sonia Swarsback, she wrote a book called "Oh Shit, I Almost Killed You." So she has a book, and she has a book, and she has a blog as well, and she's got a huge social media following on Instagram, and but she doesn't have podcasts.
Right.
So I was able. And she was great to interview. She's so much fun. She's in New Jersey, so she's coming out to California. One of her brands is bringing her out. And she helped boost our podcast awareness. It's like we got a huge score. I was looking at my analytics yesterday, and there was a huge peak on when her show was launched. And I think we got like 160 listeners that day. Awesome. And that was our second episode. So, we're still trying to
Congratulations.
Yeah. So that was great. And we are so appreciative to her. And it was such a great podcast. And we all had a lot of fun. So,
that's the important thing, is to have a lot of fun. To have fun, and I think that's probably like the headline to this whole interview is sort of like, just enjoy your time on this earth if you can. Any closing pieces of advice? I think, maybe to someone, we've talked a little bit about it, but let's say there's someone listening or watching right now who they could be sitting in a career that's really served them. They could be very, very good at what they do and actually quite comfortable. But let's say they're starting to hear that voice, maybe feeling that tug. What advice would you give to someone starting to think that they might need a change, whatever that means to them?
I would just tell them just to meditate and listen to that voice and just really focus on it, and don't listen to what is going on in the outside world, and really heeding that voice and to play and explore. If they're wanting to write, if they're wanting to take a painting class, if they're wanting to express themselves in clothing, in furniture, whatever, just to start playing with that. And it doesn't necessarily mean taking a class. It could mean going to a museum. It could mean, I don't know, going to a show, or, looking at that. And I'll give you a prime example. I had a consulting client, and she's a medical assistant. She's been a medical assistant for 5 years. She loves medical billing. She really, really loves it. She's a great networker as well. So we sat down and we looked at her strengths. And what she really loved. And she also loves lipstick, and she wants to start a lipstick line. So we looked at, what her passions are. And one of her biggest things was like, oh, but how do I start? I tried to go to another office to do billing for this other doctor, but he didn't want to pay me enough. So jumping to another position, she was trying that, and that wasn't giving her satisfaction. And so I gave her the idea. I was like, why don't you just start your own medical billing practice, your own medical billing business, hire people, train them, and get it going, and have maybe 2 or 3 offices with you and to start. She's like, I don't know, but how do I start that? Like, where do I go? Yeah. And I was like, well, look at the small business association in your neighborhood. This was in the Coachella Valley. Right. And the very next day, it was so magic what happened. She left, and she came into the office, and she's like, I have to tell you, the weirdest thing happened. Remember, we were talking about the Small Business Association? And I said, yes. And she's like, and I kept saying to myself, oh, well, I'll come into work tomorrow and I'll look it up online. Well, as she was driving on the freeway, she said that there was this big, huge billboard off of the freeway, but it was on the other side of the freeway, and it caught her eye. And they were having this Small Business Association Expo in 2 weeks. And so I was like, kind of law of attraction. I was like, yeah, I think that's great. I think it's great to go there and explore, just be open to what other people are doing. So you get that confidence and go up. And so my big takeaways are play, explore, and just be open to opportunity, and listen to that voice inside of you, and kind of push away the naysayers if you can. So
getting out of our own way is the hardest. For me, that is my biggest challenge, is getting out of my own way. So I love your advice there. It's play, and it's sort of like with no conditions, just try it out. We put so much pressure, especially us women. We put so much pressure on ourselves getting it right or perfect the first time. And you're saying it's like, no, just sit with it, explore, play, because you never know when a billboard is going to be coming your way. But you have to be looking up. Such a good metaphor. Such a good metaphor. You have to be looking up to see the signs.
That billboard, and it's that's pivotal, and it's and maybe you'll fall. I've fallen so many times. I mean, I felt my knee got dislocated on stage last year.
You literally fell.
I literally fell on stage, and people thought it was part of the show while I was supposed to be singing a song.
But you got back up.
But I did get back up during the show, thanks to a psychiatric nurse who was in the audience who talked me through it. So, and we popped my knee back into place, and the show continued. I was in a lot of pain, but we got through it, and that's kind of how it is, and you don't have to be perfect in what you're doing. I didn't know anything about producing. I didn't know anything about podcasting. Right. I hired a consultant for podcasting. I read books. I, talked to a few podcasters themselves, listened to podcasts. And finally I found my second engineer, who was amazing, who loves the podcast, and he's, helped us get off the ground. And I think that's the most important thing, is to get a team to where you're aligned, who will help you succeed and push you forward. And because there are those people who just want what they want, and they will, just drag you down. So you need to kind of
be ready to be like, listen, buddy.
Yeah. You just kind of have to really have those boundaries, and just understand that this is a business and I'm going forward, which a lot of people don't understand. I don't know what it is. I've had to tell them, I go, well, they're like, well, why are you getting so upset? Because I've had to challenge a few people, and because they were either trying to do what I'm doing or trying to get a piece of it. And I had to kind of bring them down to earth and kind of, put up a bit.
Yeah.
And they would be like, why are you so upset? And I go, it's a business.
It's called intellectual property.
Yes.
Copyright infringement. Yeah.
Copyright infringements, intellectual properties. Yeah. So,
good advice all around. Well, can one more time, where can people get in touch with you? I've put your social handles up, Facebook, yes. Twitter, your website as well. What's the easiest way if people want to know about your show or get in touch with you? Where should they go?
Sure. It's on www.roguenursemedia.com is our website, and there's all show information. You could sign up to go on our email list, and I do send out MailChimps weekly about what's going on in our podcast.
I got them. Love them.
You could go on iTunes, yep. And under Nurses and Hypochondriacs. You can go on Instagram and follow us on Rogue Nurse Media. And on Facebook, it's Nurses and Hypochondriacs.
And I'll go ahead and link to the handle here so you guys can follow. And like I always say, if you can't seem to track her down, just ask me. I'm so more than happy to send people to you. So on behalf of everyone, thanks so much for coming on. It's like you're
so much fun.
Embody.
Yeah.
What's that?
This is awesome. It's been so much fun. So thank you so much.
Your story is so powerful, and I think you've given us a lot of really solid advice, especially about listening to that voice. I think the bravery around playing is huge, especially for us gals, or anyone, frankly, sitting in a career where it's like, I'd literally be crazy to leave what I've got, but I feel this tug, or people are recognizing something within me. For so many of us, it's as far as we get, but you're such a perfect example of like, just be open to embracing that, because you never know, and you couldn't have predicted it. It's sort of like, you never know what that's going to open up for you.
No, I just thought I was going to be a nurse practitioner for the rest of my life, and maybe an educator still, and that's it. That's all I had planned for me. I mean, I always wanted to go back to theater and do something, an experiment. So I did have that longing inside of me, and I always had that longing to write. And I kept telling people, "Oh, one day I'm going to write a book." I mean, it's still coming. I've written many articles and blogs, but the book is still on the way. So
very Hollywood. I'm working on it. It's coming.
I'm working on it. It's coming. So much stuff down the way.
Well, for all of you watching, make sure to check out, follow Ersilia all over social. She's posting a lot of great stuff. Tune into her podcast. Hilarious. And then if you're in the LA area, actually, there are tickets for upcoming shows. You do list a few, which are great. I'm going to try to get down to one coming up.
Tomorrow in North Hollywood at the Lit Festival, and it's on Magnolia and Lankershim, and it starts at 6 o'clock. We go on at 8 o'clock at Greenhouse Juice. So
right on. So LA, so Greenhouse Juice. I love it. So awesome. And then, of course, if you're not in the LA area, her website and her newsletter are really the best ways to keep in touch with that. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me on. This was fun.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to sign off, you guys. Tune in with me every week. I'm typically on at 10 a.m., but Tuesdays is always the best time to track me down here at Jessica Payne Live. Again, if you've got any other questions, if you're tuning in after the fact, which I know a lot of you do because you're all over the world, and you have questions for Ersilia, you can comment here or you can shoot me a note and I will make sure to ask her. Otherwise, you can just touch base directly with her on social. But all right, we're going to give away. But thanks so much again, you guys, and for being a great guest. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Bye. Woo. Cool.